got to bring in one of my older dictionaries.
Yeah.
These ones.
Or the abridged ones, you mean?
The unabridged ones.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty much beat up. Alright. Islam. Start off with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And my salvation.
By night.
And
by day.
The
Holy Prophet.
Holy Prophet.
Notary. Islam.
Islam.
We're sharing. In fact, you want to push the door a little bit? Kill some of that noise coming in. Islam, Moors, yeah, we're straight. Islam, peace and love. We want to send high honors to all the Moors everywhere, worldwide, that's continuing to come into the fold. We want to give supreme honors to Allah, supreme honors to Noble Drew Ali, honors to the Forerunner, Marcus Garvey. We want to send a shout out to all the active Moors out there who have continued to be active, which is why we have this tidal wave of people coming into the Moorish movement, and the realization that what the Moors have been talking about for the past conscious Moors have been talking about for the past 30, 40 years is actually something that is legit. It's something that people have to consider with regard to getting themselves out of the slave statuses of Negro, Black, Colored, African American, whatever else that we decided to call ourselves. And once again, Islam to all the Moors that support online, Islam to all the Moors that give us donations online, the Moors that aren't even in Canaanland but show more allegiance to Canaanland than Moors in Canaanland. We show you high honors, supreme honors, and we give much thanks and appreciation for you Moors' time and energy. Today's class is fraud. Fraud knows fraud best. Right? Fraud knows fraud best. What we're going to be doing today is taking another look at the sovereignty movement and the free man on the land movement, and putting it in perspective so we can get a better grasp as to what the agenda of these people are and how do we disconnect ourselves as Moors from the sovereignty movement, because that's something that we've been battling with, that we continue to battle with. A majority of, well, not majority, but a good portion of the class today, we're going to speak one of the Moors in Canaanland who just recently got detained, doing the border thing. And yeah, he didn't get to go on his trip and all that stuff, but as usual, there's always, Allah always has a different plan than plan that lower self plans to go do something, right? Allah's going to step in and make sure that the message is relayed, regardless of whatever plan the lower self makes to do on the earth plane. Ancestors, Allah, Noble Drew Ali, your mom, your dad that passed away, whoever is going to show you things on the earth plane, the spirit plane, to let you know something that you need to know, right? So the more has some stuff, the more has something. At the end of the stream, we'll deal with that. As of right now, so let's get into this sovereign citizen demonstration. Moors, you already know what we do, so if you got pens and all that, make sure you have your pens, write stuff down, and when you find stuff out, present the information in a way that the people could understand it, because you got serious work to do with regard to waking up our people. All right. So this is an article by Scott Eric Rosenstiel. Scott Eric, Rosenstiel, right? Stiel. Sovereign citizenship is the status held by our forefathers, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and everyone else who won their freedom from the British Empire had this status, right? So the history of the sovereign citizen, free man on the land movement, the history of it, the origin of it, the foundation of it, the background of it, comes directly out of the so-called U.S. freeing themselves, or the Union States freeing themselves from the British Empire by coming to this land called North America, called the North Gate, called Morocco, called Maghreb Al-Aqsa, called Societas et al. Moricanos, among other names. So we run that again? Bled al-Siba, Turtle Island, whatever they want to call it, right? They came to this land to escape the British Empire, right? So, as Moors, our analysis of the foundation of the freedmen movement has to do with us, because these Europeans wouldn't be in this land if it wasn't for Moors giving them a perspective or teachings in sovereignty, right, and national principles, in order for them to be able to call themselves citizens of whatever jurisdiction that they were coming over here to create, right? But remember that George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, etc., all these individuals were plenipotentiaries of the Moors. So if the sovereign citizen, free man on the land concept is to be completely understood, the first thing that we have to ask ourselves is, how come these sovereign citizens, free men on the land, people that push this ideal, how come they don't talk about Moors at all? How come they're going to bring up the British Empire, right? Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Constitution, etc. But they're not going to bring up Moors, right? That's the first thing that, with so many people coming into this movement right now, and speaking from experience. Oh, I didn't push play on that. That was my bad. I thought I pushed it. Right? Coming into this information as quote-unquote stateless people, anything that you hear a European, foreign, sovereign citizen, free man on the land say, if your status is Negro, black, colored, African American, Jamaican, Trinidadian, African Canadian, whatever, If that's your status, if that's who you think in your mind that you are as an individual, automatically you lose when you start getting into the information. Because the status of these so-called individuals that are teaching this perspective of sovereignty, which isn't really sovereignty, you realize that they're Europeans. I don't care if they're going against the British Empire. I don't care if they say that they're, formerly known as, and whatever of the family of whatever, or child of God or whatever. They're still Europeans, point blank, right? So when we were, because like I was saying, when new Moors come into this information, part of the angle that they go is the sovereignty movement, right? Because that is what initially sparks our interest in the fraud of government, etc. Unless you were born a Moor, or unless you have Moors around you, your reference point with regard to, corrupt governments and things of that nature is going to be coming from these individuals that call themselves sovereign citizen, free man on the land, right? I can say that because that's how we came up in it. PPSA and UCC and, not going and filing anything or whatever, but listening to those individuals, right? I spoke about this before, but it's also considered from the perspective of coming out of mental slavery, right? Coming out of that status of Negro, black, colored, studying metaphysics and all these things without a nationality, still keeps you open to psychic attacks because you don't have the defense of nationality, but you have the concepts of energy, aura, mantra, Sri Yantra, mudras, Reiki, whatever. But without the nationality aspect, it still leaves us open. We're still not, our mentality is not filtered. So information that we get might not line up with us spiritually, even though it sounds good, even though it sounds legit, even though we can go read it and research, and we will find references to say, yo, these guys are really actually speaking about something that I can go research, right?
But you still are a little bit apprehensive about even doing anything about it.
Right. And, it's a catch-22 because the apprehension comes from the fact that we're coming out of mental slavery, and, we shouldn't be listening to the European. Right?
Part, yeah.
Right? We shouldn't be listening to the European. Like, that's the enemy. Part of black power and whatever. Those guys are the enemy. But, they're saying something very intriguing right now. So you kind of have that holdback approach. But then, the other side of it is that coming out of mental slavery, Europeans, they're your God. And anything European says, we're at least going to go research it and check it out and see if this is legit or not, right? Saying that to say, in 2005, 2006, maybe a little time before that, like I said, we connected with Sonetter, gave us a deal and a half with regard to, getting some DVDs from him. You know what I mean? So we put down a stack, and he gave us DVDs, right? DVDs, spools and spools and spools of DVDs, right?
Yeah.
So, come back with all these DVDs or whatever, and, going through them, watching them, familiarizing ourselves with this information. Just, consciousness in general, black history stuff, whatever. So, because there were many different schools of thought of information, right? So since that time to maybe about 2007, 2008, when we started embracing Moorish nationality, that in-between time, we were studying from the sovereign citizen movement, right? And this is why I brought the thing about European being our God, because few times I passed the Taj DVDs, right? Passed them, put it in, okay. First thing, funny hat, right? Second thing, what the hell is he talking about? Constitutional and Missouri Compromise and Dred Scott case, and this is I'm not ready to think that hard yet. Like, literally, that was the thought. I'm not ready to think that hard yet. I just want to know about my history or whatever. So put that aside, or you know what I mean? So we embrace this idea of, well, this European, and we are researching this stuff. It's making sense. It's making common sense. It's making spiritual sense. But this is a European. I can't. You're caught in the Han Solo moment, right? Right?
Yeah.
Frozen, right? Between a rock and a hard place, right? But the status is the deciding factor as to which way are you going to sway to get the information about this government corruption. Are you going to sway to the side that you know is the enemy? And not only do you know that they're the enemy, but you also know that at one time that was your God. Or do you sway to the side of this brother in this hat that you never seen before, speaking like you don't hear brothers talk, right? Saying things that you never heard ever in your entire life from a brother, right? That we've been conditioned to think, nah, don't even listen to him. Let's just go listen to the God, because everything that he says we can check research, but like I'm saying, put it in the Taj, and there was no research in anything. It was immediate lockdown, right? Immediate lockdown. Forget this, I ain't ready for this yet, this too deep or whatever. Whereas, when we look at today now, we put those information side by side, we realize that there's no comparison between what Moors are teaching and what the sovereign citizen people are teaching, right? So, and this is more so for new Moors, right? Moors who've been studying, they're kind of already here, but there's a lot of people coming in that just by things that they say, that they're studying from the sovereign guys, while they're supposed to be on the Moorish perspective, on the Moorish birthright, clearing that up. They still have this, like the Quran says, the truth and falsehood strangely mixed. Sovereignty and moral science strangely mixed, right? And moving forward with this intermingling that's not really supposed to be mixed in that perspective, right? So with the people coming in that like some signs, for example, they'll say these are people who are studying from the so-called sovereign hillbillies or whatever, right? They'll say terms like my birth certificate, my license, my passport, right? I'm a citizen of the state, right? They would say things like, the Constitution is void. Why are we going to follow the Constitution if it's void? And things of that nature, right? you'll see them have, they'll have full colons and hyphens in their name, right? They'll have an idea. They'll have an idea that the right to bear arms is one of the most important rights, right? Freedom of speech is one of the most important rights, right? Remember, this is a sovereign mentality, right? So when we go into the studying of this information, if we choose to, right, we must remember at all times, we must remember that those individuals' status is not the same as ours. So anything that you hear them say, anything that we as Moors study from those individuals, and anything that we as Moors study from those individuals must be reorganized, recalibrated in our mind before we use it. It has to be a ritual that we get their information, right? We read it over, we digest the information, and then we recalibrate the information mentally, so that when, because, you know, with more science, we say study, study, study. Because, you know, you have it in your mind, and then you have it in your heart, and then you become what you are. So if you got some European sovereignty information, and you're studying that, and then that's going in your mind, and then that's going into your heart, but it's from their perspective, not your perspective, right? You're going to notice things happening contrary to what should be happening when you start demonstrating more science, right? Right? So again, if Moors that are coming into this information take the so-called pseudo-sovereign ideals, information, and they study that information, and they let that information go into their mind and go into their heart, but they don't recalibrate the information. They take it just as they got it from that sovereign guy, right? You're putting that individual's foreign non-judicial status onto yourself, and killing your own argument when you go out there now and say, oh yeah, I'm Moorish American and blah 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 whatever. You saying that you're Moorish American, but your frequency is saying pseudo-sovereign hillbilly.
To add to that, and in regards to it, is that there has to be a connection to the past.
Right.
Because if you cannot make that connection, you say that you're Moorish American, it just puts you in the present. But if you do not connect yourself to the past, it takes you out of being a Moorish American in the sense that you're just saying it.
Right.
Like, where could you show me the connection to what you were saying? Because that's really what they're asking. It's like, okay, if you're saying to me that you're Moorish American, all right, tell me about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know?
Right.
Well, you know, I'm not supposed to pay taxes. No. That's the point.
We're not talking about taxes and you know, right to travel and things like that.
Those things
We're talking about history. Yeah.
We're talking about your ancestors.
Right.
Tell me about yourself. Because remember, you're one and the same with your ancestors.
Exactly.
So if you can't make that connection to there, oh well, you know, back in 1900, the so-called sovereign movement started. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're playing yourself.
Right.
More or less.
Right.
But go ahead.
Back to Scott, Eric. Rosenstiel style, whatever. It was the birthright of all Americans that we were generous in extending this most important right to foreign-born persons through naturalization laws. Okay? With this status, our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and property couldn't be infringed. During the Civil War, a method was discovered by the lead attorneys, financiers, and politicians of the day to deprive us of this status. Fortunately, we can get it back. This brings us to the question, what are we getting back? What does it mean to be a sovereign citizen? The word sovereign is defined in 6th edition, right? So just like we're watching the thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right? Okay. So this how you know. Again, this is another key. Do you know somebody who's studying from these hillbilly sovereigns, right? They're gonna make statements like, well, I got this definition out of 6th edition, 9th edition, 8th edition, you know, 7th edition, or whatever. They're not mentioning 1 to 4, right? They might mention 5. Occasionally, they might mention 3. But majority of the time, their study is based on Black's Law 9, 8, and 6. Mainly. Maybe 7, right? But Black's Law 6th edition, 8th edition, 9th edition, bona fide is what they're going to use as their reference to define, right? So as soon as you get to, you know, things like, you know, like with him, right? You know, sovereign is defined in 6th edition. Oh yeah, you could look that up and let's just match up. Yeah, let's just match up and see what's, you know, what's up, right?
Say yours first, I'll see mine.
So sovereign, 6th edition of Black's Law Dictionary, published in 1990, as being a person, body, or state in which independent authority is vested, a chief ruler with the supreme power, a king or other ruler in a monarchy.
Okay.
How much of that is over there?
Okay, could you read it again word for word?
All right. A person, body, or state in which independent authority is vested, a chief ruler with supreme power, a king or other ruler in a monarchy.
Okay. That's word for word, right?
Yeah.
Now, Black's Law, 4th edition. Sovereign. A person, body, or state in which independent and supreme authority is vested. A chief ruler with supreme power, a king or other ruler with limited power. Let me read it again so that people can see the difference. Sovereign. A person, body, or state in which independent and supreme authority is vested. A chief ruler with supreme power, a king or other ruler with limited power. You know what I mean? So, off the bat, the 6th edition doesn't mention supreme authority, it just says authority.
Right.
Right? And then down at the end, where it says a king or other ruler, the 6th edition mentions the monarchy.
Right.
The 4th edition says a king or other ruler with limited power.
Right.
Big difference.
Big difference. So we can make clear, right, that their position is to tiptoe away from anything to do with connecting to who are these so-called people that's given this sovereignty of?
That's the supreme authority.
Who are these people that allowed these so-called Europeans to come to this land, right? Because it wasn't Ferdinand and Isabella and them that gave them permission to come over here, right? So who is this authority, this supreme authority that allowed these Europeans to be in this land, and not only in this land exercising certain things, right? But in this land making claims that sovereign citizenship is the status held by our forefathers, and then mentioning George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and these people, right? There's obvious conspiracy going on, right? Because remember that we're the chief rulers. We're the supreme authority in this land. We're the ones that have the authority to, quote unquote, naturalize a foreigner in this land, right? Only the nationals of a land can nationalize a foreigner, or naturalize a foreigner too, right? And if a national is naturalizing people who aren't foreigners, they're committing a fraud. Because a national shouldn't be naturalizing people that aren't foreign, right? If we look at Greece or one of these places, right? And they're mad governments bailing out and going in their accounts, taking money or whatever, right? They're gonna say, forget them, we're gonna nationalize all the resources, right? And they don't have to do naturalization because everybody there is already a national. It's not anything up for debate. We know that we're Greek, right? So being that they know that they're Greek, please want to come through, you'll come through. Please, how you doing, sis? Everything good? Right? Right. Where the hell was I?
No, in regards to who's the supreme authority to naturalize.
Right, right. So,
nationality.
So the individuals of that nation of Greece that say we're mad with the government and we don't like how the government's going in our account and taking money that we didn't give them permission to do, right? Those individuals would naturalize the resources, being that they're in their own land, but they're not going to be going to individuals and naturalizing them because they're already nationals. That, just like here, the Moors were nationals already that contracted ourselves into something we shouldn't have contracted ourselves into. That doesn't mean you're a foreigner. That just means you're under a fraudulent contract. That just means you're under a heathen contract. Especially if the so-called citizenship that we're claiming to have to be, the same citizenship, the same fraudulent citizenship that they're claiming makes us foreign. So, like Moors will say, well, because we're, 14th Amendment citizens, we have to naturalize back, right? But 14th Amendment's a fraud. So it wasn't really that made us foreign, right? It was a fraud from the beginning. So it didn't necessarily make us foreign. It just made us fall under contract to individuals that are foreign, right? The sovereignty has been transferred from one man to the collective body of people, and he who before was a subject of the king is now a citizen of the state, right? So these are the case laws that they use. That's State versus Manuel, North Carolina. right? The sovereignty has been transferred from one man to the collective body of people, right? Sovereignty being transferred from one individual who's criminal to the people, right, is only going to happen if the body of people are national, Aboriginal, Indigenous, Native. The sovereignty is not going to be transferred from a foreigner who claimed that he had sovereign power to some people who are foreigners that free themselves from the British Empire in land that's not theirs, right? And then they're the ones that are saying, okay, yeah, now we're sovereign. This is our land, right? Impossible. Thus, the people became citizens of their respective states. Comes back again, James Traficant Jr., bankruptcy speech. All the states are dissolved since 1933, HJR 192. So there are no states. Also,
HJR 75.
Also, James McFadden, right? Bankruptcy speech as well. Before Traficant Jr., right? And then those speeches let you know that there's no such thing as U.S. anything. Governmental office, treasury office, secretary office, presidential office, whatever. If it's saying U.S., there's not any power whatsoever, because the U.S. so-called democracy, government, or whatever, exists in name only. It only exists in name. It doesn't exist in activity. It doesn't exist in offices. It doesn't exist in anything they have that they say they claim to be them that's other than a name. Anything other than a name is a fraud, right? It will be sufficient to observe briefly that the sovereignties in Europe, right, which are really Moorish, right, there ain't no European sovereignty, right? Okay? Right? The sovereignties in Europe, and particularly in England, exist on feudal principles. Oh, so if they're feudal, then that means they're not sovereign. If they're feudal, then that means that they're down with the Pope. Right? And if they're down with the Pope, then you know that that has absolutely nothing to do with the organic so-called governments, even in Europe.
Even in Europe.
Right? Because we can go look at all the family crests or whatever and see that today there's Europeans still holding up Corsica flags and all that, talking about, yeah, that's their nation. And there's a more on it. And then all their family crests, last names from A to Z, they got Moors on their family crest. So it's not a secret that, you know, they are using Moorish birthrights, make the Moors Negro, black, colored people, which gets them out of the way, so that these Europeans could claim to be the sovereigns and Americans and, you know, paper terrorists and be filing papers and all this type of stuff when they don't have any jurisdiction to even write anything.
But it still goes back to the question. If they're filing these papers against judges, police officers, chief of police, whoever, governors, why are they scared for it? In the sense that if they're paper terrorism, shouldn't matter.
Right.
Shouldn't exist.
How come the so-called authorities are scared?
Why are they scared for it? It doesn't exist.
Right. And the whole, and even that whole thing comes back to, again, them escaping British clutches and coming over here. Now they're over here now they're running again from from British clutches again. The same people that their forefathers and forefathers were so-called running from came over here, right? And then they established this government or whatever that's under the jurisdiction of the Moors, right? They're now saying that they don't even need the Moors now. They can be sovereign unto themselves and they can parade around with plates that they made up and cards that they made up or whatever. But majority of the time, when they go do that, they're talking to their homeboy. They're talking to their countrymen. How many dark-skinned people we know, right? How many dark-skinned people we know that are out there exercising some sovereign citizen, whatever, and getting by with it, right? Zero. And they don't even talk. They don't even put out classes or nothing like that. But they're there. No different than, we know that there's Prince Hall Masons. We don't see them.
Oh, you see them every day, you just don't know.
You don't know that they are who they are or whatever.
Yeah.
But we don't see them out there like, Hobbies Shriners and whoever else. They got their circus and they got whatever else that they got. They're parading the streets with feathers on. You rarely see, unless they're Moors, you rarely see dark-skinned people with feathers on.
Oh.
Right? And it's the same thing that dark-skinned people who get involved with sovereignty movement, the parallel to that is Prince Hall Freemasons, right? That are in the background, back burner, they can't come out and talk. It's almost like, the sovereign guys tell them, shut the hell up. You guys can't talk on these matters, right? Which, they can't really, because they got no status. They're black guys trying to exercise some sovereignty, talking about black sovereignty and getting people to come sign papers and fill out stuff or whatever like that. That's based in black sovereignty, which is only, the Prince Hall, we'll call them Prince Hall hillbilly sovereigns, right? Dark-skinned people that are studying this freeman stuff, thinking that freeman stuff is going to give them some type of freedom, liberation, or whatever, right?
Well, it goes back to what you were saying in regards to our God.
Right.
If you have thought that this is European, quote unquote, built in European is your God all this time, whatever they do, if you fall under their umbrella, it's going to give you some freedom without knowing that you're the one that gives that freedom on your own land.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that they stand by, again, the Federalist number 15, insufficiency of the present Confederation to preserve the Union, right? Alexander Hamilton, December 1st, 1787. So since that time, they knew about infiltration in their own stuff. Since back then, they knew about infiltration in their own stuff, right? So they're playing this game that, there's some ones over here, and there's some ones over here, and the ones over here are trying to keep the republic, citizens, states, whatever, and then the poor guys over here are trying to overthrow it. When both of them are down with the overthrow. Because the ones over here, they're not saying enforce the Constitution. They're saying that Constitution is void, let's make a new one. As Europeans, in land that's not our own. And then you have Asiatics following them. Nanya Shabuel and these people. Making David Wood Miller their God, full calling in name and doing all these things that have the appearance of freedom and whatever like that. But again, the status of David Wood Miller is a European. He can't be a king of Hawaii. He's a European. It's not even feasible for him to even make that claim or hold that position, right? Winston Shroud or whatever, right? He's a European. Clearly he's a European, right? Robert Menard, European. Clearly European. There's not a guessing about is he European or we don't know where he's from or whatever like that. You know, he's a European, foreigner. Not taking nothing away from, you know, things that they're doing that are assisting waking up the people out here, but just a foreigner. You know what I mean? And again, it comes back to the same thing that if you have a status that, I mean, technically you're stateless because you're not saying that you're a citizen of U.S. They're saying they're free man on the land, children of God, and all this type of stuff, right? They're not acknowledging who God is, but they're a child of that. How many of these sovereigns that call themselves child of God went deeper to show the people who's your God? If you say that you're a child of God, what God are you talking about that you're a child of? Right? And they'll never show it. Because if they show it, you realize that not only are they European, but they're also Christian. And Jesus is their Lord and Savior.
And the government that you're fighting, well, that's the child of that God too.
Correct. Because if you don't have allegiance, if you're a European, right, Islam's a brother Crackpit and the other Europeans out there that are showing allegiance to the Moors in order to be free. They're not playing like, you know, and brother Latif Bey too. They're not playing, well, you know, we are the sovereigns of the whatever and we need to, no, they're saying the Moors are the ones that are the sovereigns, right? And we're just exercising under sovereignty that we got from the Moors, right? That's a real European, quote-unquote, constitutionalist. Not these individuals who are claiming to be constitutionalists, but they want to get rid of the Constitution because, you know, somebody said that it's void or whatever, and they want to make a new one or not have anything and just run around here aimlessly with no direction, right? Yeah. You have to talk up a little bit more so we can pick you up on the stream.
On YouTube, I see this video of a Melanie recessive man, and basically he was reporting everything, and he was talking to the judge, telling him that he's sovereign and all that stuff, and basically that he made the judge walk out of the court.
Right. Now let me ask you this question. Was the judge Asiatic or European? Right? So, just like the player that took the money to throw the game is not going to let the people know that the team's down with it. Right? He's going to take one for the team, right? And throw the game. You know, game's over, run off the court first. Or, you lose a game and you don't acknowledge the other players on the other team. You just walk past them or whatever, right? Because under fraud or under deceit, right? The parties that are involved in making the deceit seem trustworthy, right, will always excuse themselves, right? Because remember, judge never said case dismissed or nothing like that, right? Judge never said, I recuse myself, I'm going to leave the bench or whatever like that, right? He just got up and left, right? Which is improper use of the courts because he's really supposed to put that stuff in writing if he's going to come off the bench. And he's supposed to make some type of statement that he's leaving. But if he's just getting frustrated and leaves, and then you have this guy talking about, yeah, so look what I did to the judge walked out the court on me or whatever, because I'm the freaking real sovereign or whatever, right? And he's a European, and he doesn't have no authority. to even say the word sovereignty, unless he says that I have allegiance with the Moors.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. He didn't even say that.
Yeah, you can't,
Oh, you just
right?
saying he's sovereign and just
Yeah.
going on with that and talking about the corporation, how he's not a corporation.
Yeah, which is, you know, I mean, yeah, they're not a corporation in the sense of, you know, being down with the U.S democracy, right? Like they're saying we're not part of that, right? But you know, if you're in the Americas and you're not claiming to be a citizen of um, that corporate construct, then obviously you're a citizen of Morocco, ipso jure. You're a Moroccan citizen or a subject of Morocco, I should say. If you're not a citizen of a U.S democracy or whatever, and they want to say, you know, I relinquish my U.S. citizenship because it's a fraud and all that stuff, all right, automatically you're a subject of Morocco. But if we don't tell them that that's their position, they're going to start talking, oh yeah, you know, I'm sovereign, and put videos on YouTube, have people say, oh yeah, I never seen Moors do that before. And then they chase this guy, who that judge probably his boy. Set up that whole thing. You know what I mean? For him to walk out. Look at all the ones with you know, them getting pulled over, show their, you know, their whatever. Yeah, I'm sovereign. You have no jurisdiction, whatever. And no officers are, okay, well, I guess, you know, whatever. And then, you know, they let them go or whatever. They won't pull them out of the car, threaten to break their glass and stuff like that, like they do in Morris. You know what I mean? They're going in there, you know, trying to unblock doors and stuff like that with these Europeans. Yeah, right? They're trying to take you out the car, but their boy, you know, God, they got clean video. They got off and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Smoking the spliff and all that after he just got stopped, right? Because there's people that are involved in that. You know that's why, you know, with Brother Amari, you know, because the situation that he had a couple of days ago proves that they freaking know what's up. We have to prove nothing to nobody about giving them nationality card and stuff. We're just supposed to say, yo, we're Moors, and they're supposed to just be like, all right, cool. So that's how much they know about it. It's not even, you know, that they don't know, or we gotta prove something to them, or, you know, well, how come this isn't working? They're not recognizing the Moors and whatever like that. Foolishness, right? They recognize. They recognize more than we think that they recognize.
They just wanted to test to see how much you know.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I'll talk on that.
Exactly.
I'll talk on that.
Right. So this is Federalist number 15, December 1st, 1787. Alexander Hamilton. Let's read some excerpts from this. This is the melancholy situation to which we have been brought by those very maxims and counsels which would now deter us from adopting the proposed Constitution, and which, not content with having conducted us to the brink of a precipice, seem resolved to plunge us into the abyss that awaits us below. Here, my countrymen, impelled by every motive that ought to influence and enlighten people, let us make a firm stand for our safety, our tranquility, our dignity, our reputation. Let us at last break the fatal charm which has too long seduced us from the paths of felicity and prosperity. It is true, and has been before observed, that facts, too stubborn to be resisted, have produced a species of general assent to the abstract proposition that there exist material defects in our national system, but the usefulness of the concession on the part of the old adversaries of federal measures is destroyed by strenuous opposition to a remedy upon the only principles that can give it a chance of success. But if we are willing to be placed in this perilous situation, if we still adhere to the design of a national government, or, which is the same thing, of a superintending power, under the direction of a common council, we must resolve to incorporate into our plan those ingredients which may be considered as forming the characteristic difference between a league and a government. We must extend the authority of the union to the persons of the citizens, the only proper objects of government. Government implies the power of making laws. It is essential to the idea of a law that it be attended with a sanction, or in other words, a penalty or punishment for disobedience. If there be no penalty annexed to disobedience, the resolutions or commands which pretend to be laws will, in fact, amount to nothing more than advice or recommendation. This penalty, whatever it may be, can only be inflicted in two ways: by the agency of the courts and ministers of justice, or by military force, by coercion of the magistracy, or by coercion of arms. The first kind can evidently apply only to men. The last kind must of necessity be employed against bodies politic or communities or states. It is evident that there is no process of a court by which the observance of the laws can, in the last resort, be enforced. Sentences may be denounced against them for violations of their duty, but these sentences can only be carried into execution by the sword. In an association where the general authority is confined to the collective bodies of the communities that compose it, every breach of the laws must involve a state of war, and military execution must become the only instrument of civil obedience. Such a state of things can certainly not deserve the name of government, nor would any prudent man choose to commit his happiness to it. Right? So they're using the Federalist 15 as a means to show how the fraud happened, when the fraud happened, and that there is a fraud that happened, at the same time that they have certain rights that allows them to not deal with that, even if they have to pick up arms to defend themselves. And this is where, you know, the strangely mixed perspective again comes in, because if you're speaking against the Constitution and you're speaking against so-called government that put that Constitution in place, but at the same time you're recognizing the forefathers of that government as being the first true Americans and whatever like this or whatever, then obviously you're causing confusion. And you don't know what the hell you're talking about, because you're riding the fence. You're playing two sides. So them in that status is playing two sides. So what's going on with Amor goes in there now, starts talking about he's, you know, sovereign and you know, filing stuff that they file and talking how they talk, right? He's in double, triple, quadruple contradiction, right? Because Amor's status alone, Amor claiming that they're national alone, makes them a citizen. Because citizenship is a part of nationality. If you're national, if you're a son of God, citizenship only has to do with you belonging to some corporate jurisdiction that you don't want to be part of.
You just naturalized.
So you claim that you're not citizen, right? Because if you claim citizen, nationality has to be part of it. So if they can claim son of God, then that means they don't claim citizen, that means they don't claim nationality, that means they're not European. And if they're not European, then the only next thing they could be is the sovereign of the land, or white men. And remember that it's energy jacking, because the real free man on the land would have had to have come through the Freedman's Bureau.
That's what, yeah, that's a good point.
the real free man on the land would have had to have gone through the freedman's bureau in order to be a free man. And those Europeans didn't go through no freedman's bureau because freedman's bureau was set up for us, not for Europeans.
To add to that point, we were watching that clip. They had mentioned that, I forgot the name of the brother, but it was around the time when the Freedmen's Bureau was set up when the freemen on the land started.
Right. 18, late.
1850,
1800,
1860, whatever.
yeah.
It was around that time when the free man situation started. What's up with that?
Right.
Freedmen's
So
Bureau.
remember, everybody before the Great Depression, right? Remember, these individuals were living off of the wealth that they accumulated from slavery. Whether they were in the north, south, whatever, doesn't matter. Everybody had slaves. Indian chiefs had slaves or whatever. So it was something. It was a national state of affairs, slavery, because everybody was involved in it. Yeah, there were people who weren't involved in it that were part of the state, right? But, you know, like, because remember, we're not just talking chattel, we're talking indentured, we're talking, you know, Chinese coming here, Indians coming here, you know, Negro, black, colored people being here, right? Falling victim to even so-called Indian tribes, becoming slaves to them, right? So with the floodgates being open, right, and the only real bar or blockage of the floodgates are the Moors. With the floodgate out there, then, you know, we're going to be inundated, right? And they took the position of, well, you know, forget stopping up this floodgate right here. How about just grab the boat and let's just see how far inland we can go, because who's staying at, you know, who's staying right here, right? There's land out there for us to go get, claim, whatever like that, right? I remember as well, around the same time too, Europeans and the so-called Indians, you know, doing all these treaties and stuff like that. Crown corporations and, you know, treaties between this tribe and some European. And treaties between this tribe and some European. Some state. Right? Because remember, all these things are happening because the Moors are out of the way. All these contracts and just like the one brother was saying, the Indian chief in that clip about the reserve,
the reserve
right?
Being a concentration camp.
Right, the reserve being a concentration camp, and then that, you know, they did this to get the Indians, you know, under the jurisdiction of the whatever, and then what the people don't realize is that, you know, the state is one big reserve. Right? This is the Indian chief, right? Letting them know that y'all think that you're free, right? You're laughing at us or whatever on reserve. Haha, you guys got your lost your land or whatever, but then you're a slave to the state, which is a reservation. Bigger reservation than the reservation that we're on. Right? So when you have Europeans taking the position, because, you know, remember Lincoln was down with the Freedmen's Bureau, right?
That was part of the 14th
That was part of the whole, you know, let's try to do something to solve the Negro problem. Because Negro problem is not going to be solved if we let them do it. And it's not going to be solved if we let the clan do it or the slave masters do it. So we need to do something. Right? And they took the position of, you know, let's do this thing. But then, you know, kill Lincoln, get him out the way, rob the stuff that was set up for the Freedmen's Bureau in the first place, right? Disperse that amongst their little whatever, so they can go on their wagon train and go wherever else that they wanted to go, right? Mislabel us, Negro, black, colored, you know, because remember, 1865 is when Noble even made the claim that, you know, it's supposed to be done. You know, everybody's free and equal. There's not supposed to be any slavery or anything going on, right? And once they got the Freedmen's Bureau out the way and you know, realized, well, thought that it's over, we can go start making claims right now, then profit comes on the scene. To re-establish that thing called the Freedmen's Bureau under the Moorish Science Temple, or the Moorish movement. To give these Asiatics back their culture, their land, their name, their, you know, constitutional authority, judicial authority, for them to go out and take their place amongst the affairs of men, right? Now we're talking about from the Great Depression, right? So 1865, after the Freedmen's Bureau, leading up to Noble Drew Ali coming, the Great Depression, and then, you know, what took place after the Great Depression with regard to these so-called Europeans that are taking the position of claiming to be the sovereigns, as if there's no sovereigns in this land that could make that claim, right? Claiming to be the Americans, as if there's no Americans, true Americans, that can make the claim of being American. Because it's kind of bold. If we look at the concept of them saying, yeah, the Americans, and they're referring to Europeans, that's bold. Because all those guys have unabridged dictionaries and know that Americans are copper-colored people. And they know that they're not copper-colored. But they'll openly call themselves the Americans. Openly. And Negro, black, colored, they ain't complaining. Because they think Europeans are Americans. And they think that they're West Indians. You know? India in the West. Right? So, you're gonna do your research on Posse Comitatus. So P-O-S-S-E or E, P-O-S-S-E-C-O-M-I-T-A-T-U-S. Right? The late 1960s saw the beginning of the sovereign citizens movement in the United States under the name of Posse Comitatus movement that held that the county sheriff held the power for enforcing laws and that the county government was the supreme government of the United States. If the sheriff did not uphold the law per their individualistic, survivalist, and anti-government beliefs, then the sheriff would be hung in the public square at noon and left there until sundown to set an example to those that disregard with their beliefs. Right? So as we know, right, the sheriff is the supreme law enforcer. Right? The sheriff is only the supreme law enforcer because sheriff comes from sharif. Right? Sheriff comes from sharif, which is a Moorish title. Okay? Former pro-Nazi The first charter was issued in 1969 to a former member of a pro-Nazi group known as the Silver Shirts from Oregon that was established in the United States shortly after Hitler took power in Germany. This group became experts at creating false documents, vehicle registrations, and driver's licenses. They filed liens at the county and state and invented the act of paper terrorism. The sovereign citizen, based on Christian rights, believe that several amendments of the Bill of Rights do not apply to them, and by ignoring the basic tenets of federal, state, and local laws, believe that they can use a mismatch of various amendments and federal laws like the Uniform Commercial Code to create a sovereign identity, or the loss of gold standard and the 1933 bank failures as a reason not to pay taxes to the Internal Revenue System, nor recognize the Treasury's paper money as real legal tender. This allows them to print their own money, checks, and documents to defraud people. They believe that common law, as handed down by the British and still used in American courts today, are the precedents that they follow. So remember, we're talking about fraud knows fraud best, right? So I think this is Southern Poverty Law Center, right? So those guys are a fraud. And they're talking about the hillbilly sovereigns, the European sovereignty movement people, based on experience. Because these guys are Europeans as well. And fraud knows fraud the best. So when you hear news or papers or blogs or whatever like that talking against the sovereignty movement, don't get distracted by the things that they might bring up in saying that they're against, paper terrorists and things of that nature, right? Because the exercising of the so-called right that the sovereign citizens have is really Moorish birthright, right? There's documented, quote-unquote, slaves that had freedom papers. So if slaves had freedom papers, then it's not anything new for Moors to have paperwork saying that they proclaim their nationality and they're quote-unquote free from the state. European can't do that because you're European. The only way you do that is if you do that under the jurisdiction of the Moors. So making the claim that I, European, whatever name, am exercising Moorish sovereignty. I, the European, or whatever name or whatever, am ipso jure Moorish subject, and I fall under the jurisdiction of the Moors, not the jurisdiction of U.S. If that's not how they're talking, they're a fraud. If they're European and they're saying sovereignty in the same sentence. Okay? You're going to Google Dave Bilinsky, Dave Bilinsky, and he's the practice management advisor of Bencher's Bulletin website. And they have a section in there on the free man on the land, right? And they're talking about, who are the free man on the land. These are not just people with extremist views, common symbols, claims of the free man movement, paper attacks. How do lawyers and notaries fit into all this? Right? Check, peep game, huh? Freedmen have attended law firm and notary offices seeking to have their documents notarized. The documents have strange wording, stamps, blood and finger seals, UCC and biblical references, and the like. They are usually pseudo-legal and completely unlike any legal document that a lawyer or notary would draw or witness. In one case in BC, a notary witnessed a series of documents with names such as notice of non-response, notarial certificate of dishonor, notarial instrument of protest, which led to the creation of a true bill and notice of accounting for the sum of $3.5 billion. These were all stated to be against the BC Court of Appeal. In this case, the notary apparently witnessed the documents in her capacity as notary acceptor. She was disciplined by the Society of Notaries Public for breach of Rule 11.01 of the Notary Rules, and admitted that her conduct was contrary to the best interests of the public and the notarial profession. Lest one believe that only notaries have witnessed and notarized these documents, there have been instances when BC lawyers too have been approached about acting in this capacity, right? So it comes back again to the power of what Moors have versus these frauds that Moors, whoever else is going to go follow. And again, you know, we're not ousting ourselves or whatever, because we learn coming up the ranks, right? We learn by doing these things and recognizing that, hold on a second, something's wrong, right? So the example, for example, is few of the Moors, you know, when we first came in, you know, we would be doing the notary thing. Go to the notary, you know what I mean? Go to the authentication office, get a apostille, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. Authenticate the writs before you send them out and all this type of stuff. You know, realize that, oh, okay, you know, just a fiat game. Notary is a fiat game, right? So, one of the Moors went to a notary one time. They had a small claims court. I think it was small claims court. A small claims court claim against them, credit card or something like that, right? So they had their writs or whatever, and they came to the temple, you know, got their stuff witnessed and all that, and then maybe a couple of days after or whatever, they found out about another document that they wanted to put in with their evidence, and but they weren't able to get a hold of the witnesses. You know how it goes, you know, when we try to get witnesses or whatever, right? So they're like, okay, whatever. I'll just put my signature on it, but I just need a seal, right? And I'll just, you know, go to the notary, let the notary do it, right? So, you know, they brought document, they put their signature on it, autograph on it, put the seal on it, right? The temple seal. They go to the notary now, right? You know, notary, yeah, you got ID or whatever, puts on nationality card, you know, proud or whatever, you know, nationality card, you know, I need to notarize, you know, court document, whatever. So, notary takes the document, and notary's like, you want me to seal this? Yeah. Why you want me to seal this document for? Well, you know, it's for a court case, blah, 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 whatever. Well, you already got a seal on it. Why you want another seal on it for? Right? So, that made us realize that we don't need to go to any notaries anymore to go get anything sealed with them. When Noble Drawley already brought us 2 seals that we could use, right? Not only that, like we're saying, a Moabite is 1,000 bailiffs. So if you have somebody with a free national name be your witness, that's 1,000 people putting their name on your document. So we don't need to go to the notary. But again, foreigners who don't have any jurisdiction in this land and don't have the power to seal their own documents, they have to go to a notary. Right? Why? Because they're really corporate people. And they could say that they're, you know, free a man on the land and sovereign and child of God and whatever else that they say, all they want. If they got a notary seal on that document that they got right there, then you're in the jurisdiction. Period. Right?
but that's what I mean. Like to add to that, that some of us were when we were doing notarization, I'll say myself, I would ask the questions like, why are we going to a notary for? Like, we're our own government, but not having the understanding of what to do next. Okay, you know what? I'll just go do it.
We'll just go.
Just
because.
Right?
Right.
But then after a while, you get the understanding, and the people that know are going to tell you.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to say to you, why are you here?
Yeah. Just like that one said. You know what I mean? Why are you here? Why you need another seal on this? This is sealed already. You know, and you know, from what I understand, that notary read the seal.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't just see the gold thing and just say, oh, you know, you sealed this or whatever. They read it and asked them, what's up? Like, why do you want me to seal this when you have a seal on it already? Right? Now, they're letting people know, one, that there's superior seals and subordinate seals, right? Because, you know, if they're a notary, you know, law society or whoever, or bar or whatever like that, then you should be able to put your stuff on there, even if something else is on there. Why wouldn't you put it on? You know, especially if you're saying $50 for me to put my seal on it, well, you don't have the 50.
Liability.
Right? But there's liability. There's accountability. Because, you know, they're not dealing with sovereign citizens when they deal with Moors. They're dealing with individuals who will come back and you put a lien on you or whatever like that, or sue you or whatever for violating anything that we claim got violated. Right? In this day and time, you know, because of the conspiracy against the Moors, you know, you'll probably have a hard time going to court suing somebody that is quote unquote government, whatever, that violated your rights. Like it ain't, you know, it's better that, you know, we be the court, let society be the court, and put them on trial with their name in the public with a video or something like that, put their pictures in there, whatever information you could find on them, and put them on blast in the public record. And let that be the court. Because even if we went to sue them, you know, they don't got no gold or silver or whatever, so you're still not getting nothing if you sue them. Because, you know, if you take the fiat, you're in conspiracy. You know, because why would you sue and not demand gold and silver in payment for debts if you're a constitutionalist, right? And why would you sue and ask for fiat if you know that fiat is a fraud, right? You know, tomorrow, 2 days, it's going to be worth nothing. Blank, 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 right? So it's things like that that we keep our eye open for. You know what I mean? Because it's something that, you know, it's trapping people. People are claiming that they're Moors, but they're exercising European pseudo hillbilly sovereign demonstration and getting themselves caught up in stuff, thinking that the information's wrong. Right? It's like what we said in the beginning. If you're a Moor and the objective of Moors studying is to go back to the ancient foremothers and forefathers mindset, right? That's why Moors study. But if you're studying from a pseudo-European, you're not going back to your ancient foremothers and forefathers mindset. You're going back to a European mindset that you assume is connected to your foremothers and forefathers because the information sounds relative. When, yeah, the information might be relative. European might be saying the exact same thing that you heard a Moor say. But status is the issue. The ultimate issue is status. What is the status of the individual you're getting this information from? Right? If you have status there?
Okay, if you need it,
If status, if status is not qualified based on the individual that is presenting the information, meaning that when they go up to say whatever, if they don't have things of a national character defining them. So if they're talking like, I'm free man on the land, they're not saying no nationality. That means they're running from status. If they're saying, well, the United States flag, and then they don't show this, right? They show amity banner. You already know, right? Because the whole deal with them is not let status come up, and the whole deal with the people against them, like FBI, RCMP, or whoever, all these quote unquote European law enforcement that are against these pseudo sovereign people, right? They're against them because they have no status. And they're trying to pose around like they got status. Like, you don't have no status to talk like that. You're a terrorist. You're Constitution, you're a domestic threat. And you're kind of a foreign threat. Which means we have a right to defend.
Exactly.
We have a right to protect.
And they do.
And they do.
They have the right to protect their interests.
Right?
That's the main thing.
And the interests, the real interests of the state, right, are those chattel property. Right? The real interest of the state is the chattel property that these individuals are going to, telling them that you have nothing to do with the state or whatever like that. You need to come down and get down with the sovereignty movement, because the sovereignty movement is your freedom, because you're not part of the jurisdiction of the state. And the state's like, you guys don't have no status to be even talking about these people aren't in the jurisdiction of the state and all that. Right? As we'll see. Right? So this is Federal Bureau of the Inquisition, FBI, right? Of their website, they have an article on there, Sovereign Citizens, a growing domestic threat to law enforcement. Right? That's on the FBI website. Okay? The FBI considers sovereign citizen extremists as comprising a domestic terrorist movement. Why you want to be connected to something like that? As Moors who want to go out there and follow these Europeans that are teaching these perspectives of sovereignty, when the FBI considers sovereign citizen extremists as domestic terrorists. Right? It is important to realize sovereign citizens' tactics to harass and intimidate law enforcement, court and government officials, as well as financial institution employees. Right? Key point in the conclusion. Although the sovereign citizen movement does not always rise to violence, its members' illegal activities and past violence, including fatal incidents against law enforcement, make it a group that should be approached with knowledge and caution. It is important that law enforcement be aware of sovereign citizens' tactics so agencies can warn the public of potential scams, spot illegal activity, and understand its potential severity, and be prepared for and protect against violent behavior or backlash through intimidation and harassment. Right? Now, we spoke about it before, about out here, the different levels of police out here. So we have the local, which is metropolitan. We have the provincial, which is OPP, and then or Ontario Provincial Police, and then we have federal, which is RCMP, and then above that military, armed forces, etc. So, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. right? And the history of the RCMP, or the federal police, um, goes back to the same thing with the sheriff, right? Taking the energy of the sheriff. That's why they have the sheriff hats or whatever, ride the horses and all that, right? Um, they take the jurisdiction of the sheriff in order to be the federal police. And then they take that level of quote unquote law enforcement sovereignty or whatever that they got, and then they give it to the lower levels for them to exercise in their immediate jurisdiction, right? So that's why you notice we never see local police pull over people on the highway. It's always OPP because the highways are provincial. So that's OPP jurisdiction. So you're not going to get pulled over on the highway by Metro, right? They'll more call OPP if you go on the highway. When people think, oh yeah, they can't get on the highway, I just go on the highway and then I'm out of here. No, they already called, they got the spike strip or whatever waiting for you up there, right? Because remember, all of them working together in the whole escheating process, or sovereignty, or Moorish sovereignty, or not sovereignty, Moorish let's say Moorish Navy on land demonstration, right? But we never really had no quote unquote police forces on land. All of the Moorish forces were always on the sea, right? So the RCMP, who were the first branch of police out here, right? In 2011, they put out an officer awareness bulletin about free man on the land, right? So this is E Division Criminal Intelligence Section, Provincial Intelligence Center, Officer Awareness Bulletin, free man on the land. Now, since we got this, we've been telling Moors, stay the hell away from free man stuff, stay the hell away from sovereign citizen, whatever stuff like that. PPSA, UCC, gonna file stuff. You guys want to pay $500 to go to these Europeans' little class, but you can't come to the temple, $10 class, free class even, right? So the information being provided in this document has been collected with the intent of timely dissemination and in support of criminal operations. Recipients are encouraged to self-verify all information contained in this report before using it for any investigative, enforcement action, evidence, or other legal proceedings. Okay? Why the disclaimer? Why the disclaimer? Because by 2011, out here, they realized that there's Moors out here. They realized that there's a fine line between the demonstration that the Moors are presenting and the demonstration that these freedman individuals are presenting. So we have to, as federal, law enforcement, we need to make sure that that line is clear, so people know what side we're on and what side we're against, right? So they're very specific in who they're talking about in this bulletin, right? Free man on the land. Members of the free man on the land can present risk to officer safety. From back then, the old militia stuff, right? Officers are urged to exercise caution in dealing with known or suspected members of the free man on the land. Free man on the land is a libertarian and anti-government movement whose members believe that they are sovereign citizens and not subject to the laws of Canada. They also believe that they have the right to use force, including deadly force, in defense of their land, property, and family. Indicators of potential involvement with free man on the land movement. Subjects refer to themselves as given name of the family surname. When writing their name, subjects use the format given name, surname. Example, John Fulcolin Smith, which may be followed by the man. Example, John Fulcolin Smith, the man. Subjects claim to be living as a rapper or something, John the man. Subjects claim to be living as a son of God, or to have status as a son of God, right? Okay, so now, if we use son of God as an example, right? So they're claiming they have status of son of God, right? All right. So if you have status of son of God, right? Who's your God? And we all know that, Jesus ain't no God, right? And, Muhammad and whoever else is, they're not gods, right? You know that there's one supreme God of the universe. And we know that the supreme God of the universe doesn't call himself God or herself God, right? It's a frequency. It's an energy, right? Subjects refer to themselves as humans or flesh and blood human beings. Subjects refer to Canada as a corporation or a corporate entity, and may refer to driver's licenses and other forms of government identification as corporate issues. During traffic stops, subjects refer to their common law right to travel on the land, which they believe allows them to operate a vehicle for non-commercial purposes without having to register or insure the vehicle and without being licensed as a driver. Subjects ask to see police officer's bond number. Subjects present or reference a notice of understanding and intent and claim of right, a document they believe exempts them from the authority of police and other officials and entities, and entitles them to charge fees if they are detained, questioned, or otherwise regulated. Subjects make continued use of nonsensical legal, quasi-legal jargon. In addition, officers are asked to remain alert of the following: signage and vehicle decals containing anti-government sentiments or terms used by the free man on the land movement, such as free man, sovereign, think free, etc., and references to free man on the land related websites such as fmotl.com, freemanitoba.com, thinkfree.ca, worldfreemansociety.org, and any other variations free man on the land inspired groups on Facebook. Third-party rule. This document is property of RCMP, is not to be reclassified, copied, reproduced, used in whole, in part, further disseminated without consent of the originator. Contact Provincial Intelligence Center for permission for release of any information. Page 1 of 2. So there's a second page that didn't make it out into the public. Right?
What's on that page?
Yeah, who knows, right? So with this bulletin, it's clear that they have a certain language that they speak. That's why we said from the beginning that if Moors are getting into this information that the freedman Europeans are using, nobody's not saying the information's wrong because majority of them study from Moors. What we're saying is that their status is contrary to our status. So we must take their information and recalibrate it mentally before we use it. We must take the information and put our Moorish spirit on it before we use it. Because to use it just because you've seen it on YouTube and a guy did it, and you say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and you didn't change the frequency of that dissemination, whether it's physical or verbal, into something that a Moor can take and use, then you're causing yourself a disservice, and you might cause yourself to be injured, because everything, right now especially, is based in energy. And if your energy's off, then you're pretty much done for, right? Last two quick articles that you're gonna just go check out. Associated Press, April 2014. Ex-con who took plea deal in sovereign citizen plot to kidnap Las Vegas police gets probation. Right? ex-con who took plea deal in sovereign citizen plot gets probation, right? So instead of, that one basically comes down to the individual who's making the claim to be sovereign citizen, him getting offered a deal if he denounces his connection to the sovereign citizen movement. And all he got was probation, right? When he was plotting to kidnap somebody, all he got was probation. Come back to that thing about Europeans, dealing with Europeans on a totally different level than Europeans or Asiatics dealing with Moors who have the same information that these sovereignty guys have. Right?
Kidnapping is big.
Kidnapping is big, but he only got probation because he took a deal, right? And the next one is an interview with a man by the name of David Kanz, K-A-N-Z. Sovereign X participant tells his story, right? And he was one of these lean guys, like to lean people, lean judges and lean whatever, and he got something, right? He got something made him become an ex-sovereign, whatever, right? Right? Give up the sovereign stuff, or just like they do with Negro, black, colored, you know, give up your nationality, we'll give you anything. Don't be a Moor, we'll fund you and stuff like that. We give you all types of grants. So you can start up all these organizations out here, black organizations, help black people, help black youth, marginalized youth, at-risk youth, you know, whatever. Once you say that you're black, don't worry, we have a check for you to help you help these black people that need so much help. Just keep calling them black, identify them as stateless people, identify them as at-risk, identify them as ADHD, attention deficit, can't pay attention to anything that's going on in the world other than basketball and, you know, football and sports and sneakers and clothes, and that's it, right? So, as we study, you know what I mean, we learn more and apply more. That's pretty much, you know, first bit. We're gonna let Brother Amari step up and put his stuff on the record with regard to his little situation that he went through, so that Moors, especially Moors out here, because as we know, you know, Canaanland today, you got 4 people in attendance today. You know, 2 of them are regulars, 2 of them are new people, right? I know y'all know this. You haven't heard Brother Omar's voice today, but he's taking some vacay time. You know what I mean? So, but he's good, right? But you know, something that he always states, that we got 70 people on the email list or whatever, and 5 people coming to class and all this, right? So we're putting this out there so Moors could take their birthright out here a little bit more serious. You know, people have this misconception that, you know, nobody knows about the Moors in Canada as far as the government's concerned or whatever, and you know, we're just frauds, and you know, I got a text today, somebody texting me asking me if one of these dirty Moors didn't shut us up yet. You know what I mean? Like, if, you know, we're gonna stop the activity. So Islam, and here comes Brother Amari El Bey, Islam.
Peace, Moors. How y'all doing? Situation happened to me this weekend, actually Thursday evening. I'm not going to give you the full, you know, from point A to point Z, just more or less just a little bits. I'm going to be putting that out on a separate video. That way I have all my information in front of me. That way I could have facts in front of me. I don't say stuff just to say stuff. But more or less what happened to me this weekend was I was on my way to go visit family, and got to the border. They, went through. They asking me questions. Like where you going, what you going for, blah blah blah. Gave them what information I had. It goes back to about was it Cujo? Was it about maybe 3 months ago when we went down to the border?
Yeah.
About 3 months ago, we went down to the border and we didn't get through because of certain circumstances that we couldn't get through, which is, it's their reasons, that's fine. So from that time to now, they obviously were doing research on what we had told them at the border. Nothing negative, just more or less they're doing their research. So I got there. When they put my passport through, some information came up, like a long letter came up, basically saying who I am, whatever. So it wasn't anything negative. It was just information. And they wanted to find out certain things, okay, like what's going on here. Sure enough, the reason why they did not let me through was that I didn't have an address on me. Think about that. They didn't have a connection to an address. We could build on that another time, but just more or less, that's what happened. Didn't have a connection, so they say, you know what? We can't let you through. We know where you're going, but we don't know where you're coming from. So that's fine. So anyway, they send me back to the Canadian border now. So I get the Canadian border, and they ask, well, why are you coming back here? So, well, they won't let me through. Not enough information for identification. So she typed in my passport and number, and she kind of jumped back. It's like, and I watched her, I was like, okay, wait, why is she jumping back? But anyway, so she kind of jumped back. She says, well, hang on a second, I got to go speak to some people. I'll be back. So she goes in the back, comes back out with 2 other Canada Border Service agency. No, it's an agency now. But anyway, comes back with them. They said, listen, we need you to come with us. It's like, okay. I was like, okay, well, I guess my trip is going to be longer than I thought it would be. They took me to the back room and says, you're under arrest. I was like, okay, I'm under arrest for? It's like, well, it says here that there's a warrant out for your arrest. I was like, okay. All right, well, on the threat, duress, and coercion, I do not waive my rights. I do not waive my status. I was kind of nervous at the time because, you're under arrest. You're under arrest. So you step back, you try to collect your thoughts, and then they read me my rights, and they said, do you understand? No, I don't understand. I overstand, but I don't understand what you're saying to me. So, but I said, well, I mean, what do you mean you understand? Don't you understand? I said, no, I don't understand. If I understood, then I won't be here. So, no, I don't understand. They say, you have a right to a lawyer, a counsel. I said, well, for me, I need to call my consul. And see, the funny thing about that word is that, what do you mean consul? Don't you mean counsel? No. Consul. Like it's cut and dry. Counsel, consul. I need to speak to my consul. They said, well, you're a Canadian citizen, right? So your consul is a Canadian government. So they do know what I'm talking about, but they're saying that they don't know. But anyway, they read me my rights, whatever. So I sat in the back, and then they called Peel Regional Police to come and get me because that's where the warrant is issued at the station over there, 22 Division. So they sent the guys to come get me. This was about maybe about 5 hours later. So I sat in there just meditating for a good 5 hours. Didn't sleep. They asked me if could we do something for you? Could we give you this? Could we? It's like, I'm fine, right? Sure enough, Peel comes and get me. They read me my rights again. They said, they went through the whole spiel. And I basically said, listen, I understand everything that's going on. Don't understand anything that's happening. So their thing to me was, what do you mean you don't understand? Like, it's clear as day what I'm saying. Yeah, but I don't understand it, right? Sure enough, they took me hostage, put me in the back of the ship, brought me over to the station, got to the station, was in the station. First thing they did when I got out was one of the constables there. First thing it says, I've had enough of you freemen on the land, more people. Right there, as my overstanding is, they're putting a label on me, right from the back. Now, if I kept that label, that's who I am, in my status. And this is something that I said we have to study on, in terms of rules of engagement with other nations. You got to make sure that you disassociate yourself right there on the spot. Because what I said was, no, I am not no freeman on the land. You are desecrating my religion by placing freeman on the land and more in the same sentence. To which he said, well, I've had enough of you guys. I said, stop. You have enough of the free man or you have enough of Moors? No, I am not a freeman on the land. Sure enough, he said, well, I don't have to listen. I said, well, I don't have to listen to you either because right now you're infringing on my religious beliefs by calling me something that I am not. And by the way, all of us in this room are, because there were melanated brothers in the room. And I said that, and they're like, no, I'm not none of that. Like, they made sure that they said that they're none of that. Right? So it's like, what did I say wrong when I said I'm not? So they made sure, no, don't be pushing your religion on us. I said, I'm not pushing religion on you. It is who we are. If you're melanated, you're this. So that's on the record. If you're melanated, you are a Moor. Period. So they could disassociate themselves if they want to, but I am speaking fact. Anyway, maybe about 10 minutes later, they took me to the back cell, went to the back cell, and I was in there, and no incident, nothing, because I noticed that they started treating me differently. It was at this point they said, we need for you to speak to some people. Now, this is the part where, as I said, everybody knows about us. Everybody knows what's going on. They could check. They have the facts. We could show you the facts. We could prove what they know and what they're doing. They said, we need for you to come speak to some people. So I go out of the cell area and go into the back to an interview area where they interview people for certain cases, whatever. So I go back there, and two brothers came in. Well, one brother and one European, but still brothers nonetheless, because the way they treated me, it wasn't on a level where they were interrogating me. All they were doing was just like, okay, he's a Moor. All right, let's see if he's telling the truth or not. Let's see if the information that we have corresponds and matches up with what he's going to tell us. Like, that's what I got. So we sat down. I forgot their names, but I believe I have it written down in my notes. But so I go to the back. I sat down there, and then first thing they said to me, what is it with you freemen on the land and Moorish people?
Second batch.
Second batch of people, sorry. First thing I said was, if we continue on the road of comparisons of freemen on the land and Moors, I cannot speak to you. Like, straight up, I said that to them. I said, if you're going to say that I am that, then we can't speak. You cannot get any information from me. To which they kind of eased off, and then we spoke. We were very cordial with each other. They asked me questions in regards to, like, what do you guys do? I said, first of all, we are religious in nature. If you want to find that information, check out the HJR 75, the House Joint Resolution from 1933. Check out our 1099-5905 paperwork filed in Chicago. You can check that out as well. You could check out the Moorish Science Temple in Chicago, Temple number 10, to which we got a charter from, with Temple number 5. Now, let me tell you, I'm saying all of this, and he has a smile on his face because he's like, okay, finally we meet someone that is genuine. Like I'm not like saying, oh, I'm anti this, and so he explained to me why they're speaking to me. He says, we are hearing that you guys are anti-government, anti-this, authority. I said, no. I am Amari Bay. I am secretary for Almore Science Temple, Temple number 5. I am Minister of Business Affairs and Postmaster General. I am government. I am part of government. I cannot be anti-government if I am such. As part of the council, it's my government speaking with your government on issues, and that's what we're doing right now. So we talked on, and I told him all the things in regards to religion, and one of the brothers, he mentioned to me that he is a Muslim, which was perfect, because I said, well, we are Muslims, and he says, but what's the difference? I said, well, there really isn't any difference. It's just that one is more ancient than the other. And he's like, yeah, like, he knows. And I said, it's you've studied from the Quran, given to you by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I'm studied from Noble Drew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. And I said that to him, and he's like, like, there was just like a sigh of relief from them that I've realized. But the fact of the matter from all of that was they have information on everything that we're doing. They have information on everything that's been done and that is going to be done. They're not necessarily going after Moors per se, in a sense that we're doing things wrong. What's happening is that they're encountering a lot of people out there saying that they're Moors. All he wanted to get from me is, how could they differentiate a Moor, real Moor, from a fake Moor, saying that they're Freeman and land or whatever? How to differentiate? My answers to that was, first of all, do they belong to a temple? That's the first question. Now, they know this. They know that they have to belong to a temple. I said, most of the information, they just wanted to hear it from me. Do they belong to a temple in the sense that there's an allegiance to something? It's just like if you give me your information as a investigator, well, who do you have affiliation with? If you say that you're a constable so-and-so from so-and-so, all right, great. Can I have the phone number so I can call them and verify you? Same as us, part of government. So they looked at it and said, you know what? You're absolutely right, because the fact of the matter is, if you're going to say you're something, somebody has to be able to vouch for you. Period. All that information that I gave, because it wasn't any information for me to incriminate myself or anything. It was just information for them. What they were doing was, they was just doing research and adding to the file that they already have. They have a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, well, what was some of the stuff on there that they had in their little
Paperwork that they had, as I said, they had the HJR 75 from 1933. They had the 1099, 5905 paperwork filed in Chicago, right? They had, there's another document, I'll put it on on the YouTube, but there's another document that they had that shows, like, the FBI documents. They have that information in terms of the Maccabean files that we have. They have that information, right? So he didn't show it, all of it to me. It's just more or less like, yeah, we have this stuff on Moors. From what I got from it, as I said, is you had to be there to understand what was going on, understand what was going on. From what I got from it was, there are people at the side of the road that is giving them trouble, and they don't know how to deal with it. Somebody could get hurt. Period. Somebody could get hurt. And they're just looking to know how how to train the officers to do their jobs properly. That's all. They don't want anybody getting shot. And I said to them, like, I'm not stupid. I said, y'all have cannons. I'm going to fight you for it. You know, it's not a necessary jurisdictional issue. It is and it isn't. Like, you have cannon. You could do whatever you want if you choose to do that. I'll be stupid to go against you knowing that you have a cannon aimed against me. Why do that? Why be so stupid? So at the end of it, when we got to the court part now, they said, well, if you go to court, just don't say what I said. Well, see, that's the issue that we're having with the court system, so-called court system, is that it's not that you don't have jurisdiction over the issue, it's just that as a Moor, you have higher jurisdiction. So your issue has to be dealt with at a higher venue. And that's all we ask for when we go there. It's like, if you don't have jurisdiction for this issue, send it to a higher venue that does. Of course, we will go in and face judgment, but it has to be dealt with in a court that has the jurisdiction to do that. So at this point, he agreed to disagree, but you know, at the same time, we moved on. But bottom line is this, and to all the Moors out there, they know what's going on. It's just that most people out there think that they don't know. They know. Like, they know. They talk to each other. They give each other information. There's information out there. They know. We have, like, Brother Cujo has, I don't know how many DVDs you have out there. Ustream you have out there. Like, they watch these stuff. They investigate these stuff. They look for things that have been said. Like, they read the Black's Law Dictionary. They know. The lawyers, they know. They just they just want to know how to deal with the people who are not being true.
Okay, question.
Go ahead.
You've been releasing.
Mm-hmm.
Based on knowledge, you know,
Mm-hmm.
past people,
Mm-hmm.
you have a warrant,
Mm-hmm.
kidnap you,
Mm-hmm.
and then they hold you
Mm-hmm.
until the court date.
Okay.
Or you get bail or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Somebody comes to the court.
Bail you. Okay.
When they brought you to the court, they called me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, we have, you know, straw man. You know, I'm like, oh, you mean Mario Bay? Like, well, yeah, but, you know, and then there's straw man name or whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, he got a warrant or something or whatever like that. You don't want somebody to come bail him out. Bail him out. Like, bail him out for what? Why you just release him on his own recognizance or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you guys done that before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, somebody has to come because, you know, you need somebody to sign, be a surety, blah, 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 right? And, you know, then they said they had a wife's number.
Yeah.
I would call her. And then, you know, me and her spoke. But she was going to go down there.
She's not my wife,
to,
so, I mean, just,
yeah,
she's not my wife,
right?
just.
They're going to come down there. You know, she was going to go. We'll call one of the other Moors. He was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But then, when she got there,
Mm-hmm.
they told her that they are your daughter. So, what happened with the release?
Basically, what happened was, once I finished the interview, they took me back to the cell. Then, as I said, like, from after the interview, everything changed with the guys that were dealing with me before. It was like, you want something to drink, you want a blanket, you know, you might, like, you're not going to be here for long, so we might not give you, so just hold tight for a minute. They came, got me, I had no handcuffs, nothing. Just came, got me, so I could just stand there. He didn't say nothing to me because, in a way, he knew, like, you know what, I screwed up. I kind of made this guy feel bad, but whatever. Anyway, that's beside the point. They took me out of the police 22 division and brought me across to the court. brought me across there, took me down into the cells, whatever, got in there, went into the cell room with the guys, and the guy said, well, what are you in here for? No identification, failure to identify. And the guys were looking at me like, what? Like, you're not going to be here for long. They even said it. Like, you're not going to be here for long. I said, okay, well, we don't know. I don't know, whatever, right? So I go into the courtroom, and first thing they ask me, like, and another thing too, let me add to it, sorry, let me back up a little. It's a matter of picking your battles as well too. And this is something you spoke on last week, I believe. Picking your battles, because when I went into the courtroom, I could have done and said, you know, Mario Bay, explanation, John Ham, whatever. I could have stood my status in regards to who I am. That's fine. The fact of the matter is, me doing that, I'm not going home. I'm not going home. And they could hold me in any essence. So I get to the courtroom and they said, well, basically, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'm going home, right? Okay, well, come back at this time. And my time to go back is July 24th. So they basically said to me, okay, all right, just go back and wait, and then you'll be left go today. Like, no, and the guys who came with me, they're looking at me. It's like, he gets to go home today. Like I've been here since yesterday. I can't go. Like, what do you mean he gets to go? And he's in here with criminals. What do you mean he gets to go home? Because when I got back to the cell, the guys were watching. Was like, so, like, what did they say? I really didn't want to say because, you know, they might jump me there. I said, well, they told me to leave. And the guys in there were like, but I've been here since yesterday. Right? Like, I was like, well, they told me to leave. Because even one of the correctional officers, I started to ask him questions. He says, well, you're asking me questions. Well, you're going home, man. Like, don't worry about it. You're going home. Like, you're not going to be stuck with these guys. Just don't worry about it. That's what he said to me. He's like, you're going home. And that's the issue. You're going home.
Right, and another thing to keep in mind as well is that he initially got stopped by showing a passport. Right? And it moved from who or what he identified himself as through the passport to dealing with nationality and birthrights and religion and, you know, things that have nothing to do with that name on the passport.
Perfect.
To show more is that it's not an issue to have perspective of nationality, but then have one of these corporate documents.
That's
and you know, play your position when it's time to play, because we're under occupation.
exactly.
So they expect certain things from us, but they're not going to deny certain things if we present them.
Exactly.
They're just like, because I mean, technically, you know, they could have said you're running a fraud because you showed a passport, and then now you're saying you're Amari Bay, and we're you know, just like how you said, you know, well, I don't understand. They could have, well, we don't understand. Which one of these two people are you? Right?
See, as I said, like I'm going to really get deeper when I present this to everybody, but to add to what you're saying in regards to the passport, he called me Amari Bay, one of the interviewers. I didn't give him that name. I didn't give him that appellation. He kept calling me Amari. To which I said, why are you calling me that? Why are you calling me that? He's like, well, isn't that who you are? Like, he was confused, in a sense, right? But I asked just to see.
Yeah, clarify. Yeah.
So,
where are you coming from?
As I said, man, you know what? It's not a game or anything. It's like, they know what the hell is up. He knows that I could correct my status. Because I mentioned the United Nations Declaration for the Indigenous People. He's like, yeah, Article 6. He knows, they knew that I could correct my status. And that's what I said in regards to that. Okay, correcting my status. Hasn't been done yet, but it's being done. I'm in propria persona. I'm not civil or motus. I am entitled to correct my status as an indigenous Aboriginal American. They didn't say, oh no, you guys are not. No, they didn't say none of that. Everything I said was just confirmation to what they already knew. So go back forward now, back in the cell now, is as I said, I was in there, and the guys, they were just dumbfounded. Like, how come you're going home, man? Like, I don't get this. Because as I did, one brother, he was in there since the day before, and nobody's got, like, he set bail, but he has to wait till somebody come and gets him or whatever. But I went home. I said, peace, my brothers. Hope to see you again on the outside. And that was that. But Islam. But as I said, man, I go back to it again. Everybody knows, man. Everybody knows. And to the interviewers, I mean, if you all see this, like, I have to say thank you for at least enlightening me to enlighten the people. That, like, we're here to help in any way, shut down whatever fraud is out there. If there is a fraud, I don't know fully, but more or less, when I said to them as well, you guys know everybody knows this information, that who are not in North America, you know everybody in Europe knows this information, right? You guys know that, right? It's like, well, yeah, you know, Moors in Spain, you know, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I was like, I hope I was able to help you in your work that you have to go forward with, because I have a big job myself to uplift fallen humanity myself. And we just shook hands and we left, and that was it with the interview. But the main thing was in regards to the interview. Why am I being interviewed? Why am I not being called by my straw name in the interview? Why? Like, why? I don't know. Like, I'm asking. Like, this is a question I'm going to pose to all the Moors out there, all the Moors and non-Moors alike. Why are they not asking me any other questions other than in regards to what's going on? You know, why am I doing it? What brought me to this level of thinking to start doing it? In a sense, to go back to my ancestors. Why did I do it? I said, well, first of all, I had a feeling inside of me that only I could feel, and I put it to the European, no offense, but you can't do that because connection to your ancestors is not there. And he, like, yeah, okay, whatever. yeah, I know. Okay, whatever. But the you know, it's like the Muslim brother, he understood what I was saying. He knew what I was saying, right? And that was it. And that was it. Any questions? Other questions? Like, I mean, I have more to say. It's just, you know, I want to have the facts in front of me. I'm just giving you like the Cold Notes version of it. But any questions? No? All right. And that's it. Peace, Morris. Islam. Yeah,
So there it is, yo. There it is. 6:46. So we're about to close out. Want to say Islam to, I think we had 10 Moors online today. Right, so 1,000 Moors online. It's not bad. Right, we got 500 Moors here. So continue to get the studying on. Announcements again. Remember, check out Khalifa Media. Get your update on all your Moorish literature from independent Moorish scholars. You can also go to rvbaypublications.com as well, and MoorishCivilLetter.net. Brother Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey, demonstrating on etymology and I guess the Moorish connection to Masonry. We got Tuesday class. It's going to be on so-called Canada Day. So that class is going to be basically dealing with the book that I got coming out. Came out already, but we're going to do a publish through Khalifa Media. Welcome to Canada book. So we're going to be going into that, and we're going to be going into the fraud of Canada and the fraud of July 1st and July 4th, and you know that we got our own independence. We don't need nobody else's independence. That's going to be on this channel, Ustream, at 7 p.m. as well. Moorish Heritage and History School on Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. until 11:30. And as well, Moors, continue to study, and don't ever let them call you sovereign citizen or free man on the land. Make sure you slap that label off you immediately as soon as somebody tries to apply it to you, because you know, as we know, we're Moorish American. We're not free man on the land or any pseudo citizens of corporate jurisdictions or anything else. So Islam to all the Moors worldwide, Islam to all the active Moors. Well, yeah, Islam to all the master teacher Moors, because I heard master teacher Moors been watching Canaanland. So Islam to all the Moors who's been teaching the Moors, putting their neck on the line, putting whatever else on the line to get the information to the new Moors with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing. And Islam to all the elder Moors out there that stuck to the program and continue to be an inspiration to new Moors coming up, and continue to assist in uplifting of fallen humanity. And as well, to the new Moors, welcome home. Islam. We just close out with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
His holy prophet.
His holy prophet.
Noble Juali. Ashe.
Ashe.
Islam.
Peace. Peace.
Peace, Moors. Hotep. Love.
That's. Good.